Now we will ask you questions that have been submitted from the floor. Again, please remember you have 2 minutes to respond to each question. Darlene Zane will read these questions. Darlene?
Thank you. All right, so I've grouped the questions, and you have all been really great about keeping to your 2 minutes or less. So I think we're going to be able to answer everybody's questions asked. So the first group is, of course, some of you have already addressed that even though a lot of people feel we have a safe neighborhood compared to other areas of the city, crime is on the increase. We've had more muggings and shootings recently. So we'd like to know how each of you intend to address this as supervisors. So Mr. Campos, you and Mr. Real briefly have said something, but if you would like to say further.
Yes, absolutely. I am a big believer and proponent of community policing. I really believe that a police department is only as effective as it is connected to the communities that it serves. I don't see how a police department can patrol a neighborhood effectively unless the police officers understand the concerns and the issues that are facing that neighborhood. As a police commissioner, I have pushed for foot patrols, but something as basic as getting police officers to actually get out of their patrol cars has truly been an uphill battle. And I don't understand why the Police Officers Union has really fought that. And the ironic thing is that as they fight that, the police officers themselves, 80% of them want to get out of the cars. They want to connect with the neighborhood. There is something really critical and really important about a police officer talking to a merchant, talking to a resident, understanding what's going on. Cultural competency also has to be a part of the equation. There is something about a police officer understanding what it's like to be a young man growing up in Western Addition and a documented woman living in the Mission. That's why, as a police commissioner, for the first time, we started taking people to the police academy so that they could explain to them their concerns and why many people, quite frankly, are afraid to speak to work with the police department. The big issue is also the issue of staffing. In the Mission District, we have 105 police officers. In the Ingleside, we have 115. The captains can tell you that we should be at every station something along the lines closer to 140, 150. So we are in every district, one of the 10 district stations throughout the city, about 40 to 50 police officers short. So we have to do a lot more with less. And we need a strategy, a long-term strategy. And part of this strategy should be, how do we get our young people to actually think about a career in law enforcement, becoming police officers, becoming firefighters? 70% of our officers live outside the city. We need to have our young men think of that as a possibility. How great it would be if we have actually people from the neighborhood patrolling Portola.
And that is, the resources should be there to organize yourselves and to know where to go ask to make that happen and who are the decision makers around that. I think that is really the biggest approach to community safety, is really taking control of ourselves and knowing our neighbors. This is incredible.
The people who work down at Family Connections wanted to know what your experience is working with children and developing programs for them. And somebody in the audience wanted to know if you would support the building of a new John O'Connell High School for Technology with programs, what we used to call the trades, or technical programs like carpentry, electronics, plumbing, sheet metal, and now the hot thing is green technology. And
I've been teaching since 1992. I taught at Paul Revere here in Berkeley Heights and Glen Park Elementary and Edison Elementary. And now, for the last 6 years, I've been teaching in Redwood City at Garfield Charter School, 8th grade science. So I have a lot of experience working with kids, and on the school board, for the last 8 years, I've worked on a number of program development opportunities, and I think the biggest thing that we've done so far, at least lately, is pass, and with all your help, hopefully we voted for it, Prop A, which passed in June, which is a parcel tax which is going to bring in $28 million a year to make sure that teachers can stay in San Francisco. And it's going to stabilize, frankly, it's going to stabilize the teaching population at the schools that most need the stabilization. So it's mostly the East Side schools, including MLK, where teachers are going to get even paid more to be at those schools. And if they teach in certain areas, like special education or science or math, they'll even get paid more. It's not necessarily a program, but with that money, there's going to be about $5 million allotted to professional development. There's been no professional development for teachers in the last 10 years in San Francisco because the state cut that money. Any professional development that's happened has been on an ad hoc basis, not systemic, and certainly not meaningful. So now we're going to be able to offer professional development. We're going to stabilize the teaching population, and the kids who need the most help are going to get it. And we're going to continue to succeed. In San Francisco, if you don't know already, is the highest performing urban district in the state. It's just that we have a huge gap between African American, Latinos, and some other students with Asian and Caucasian students. And we need to really work on that and make sure we close that gap. As far as John O'Connell is concerned, it's my neighborhood high school. I absolutely support turning that into a green tech vocational ed school. Well, the folks down at Family Connect, they understand that in order to deal with the achievement gap that Mark's talking about, is that early childhood development is really key. Those first 5 years of preschool and quality childcare are really critical. So I also too just have a 2-month-old, so it's on my mind, obviously. So I think moving towards universal preschool is really going to begin to have an impact on preparing our students as they enter into school to close this achievement gap that we've been facing here in our school district. In terms of the trades, definitely John O'Connell should be a trade school. I think we all support that, a green tech school. But what I would like to see is something more along the lines of the Mandela Center in Oakland. I don't know if people are familiar with it, but it's a state-of-the-art training center for the trades for apprenticeship, as well as Carpenter's Training Center in Pleasanton, and Carpenter right there, which is really impressive when you go out there and see the state-of-the-art facilities that really can train a workforce to be able to retain the jobs that are here in San Francisco. We have a tremendous amount of construction that happens downtown, and these jobs are available to us, but they're not going to our local workforce. We need to train our local workforce to give our young people the opportunity to make sure that they can retain those jobs. In terms of creating jobs, I think our small business is really our economic engine. We have a corridor here that could really also help vitalize jobs and job opportunities for young people after school when they're idle. We can work with small businesses to try to get them to open up some slots for our young folks. We have McLaren Park, which we've talked about a lot tonight. I think just right there in McLaren Park, if we can begin to use that as a public works project to start training and employing our young people and young adults in fixing up the park, I mean, that's one way of using our main resource in finding solutions to some of the other problems we're facing.
It's a very personal issue for me. I came to this country when I was 14. I came here as an undocumented youth without knowing the language. And the only reason that someone like me is here today is because there were programs and opportunities that people created for people like me, our public school system. That's what made it possible for me to be here. And for me, this is truly about making sure that every young person, every child in this district has those opportunities. I've dedicated 10 years of my life to the school district. I was general counsel to the school district for a number of years until very recently, and have the honor to work with Mark Sanchez as he's been on the Board of Education. And I think it's really great to see that a lot of good things are happening, but there are also things that are not happening. And if you look at the school board, they recently got rid of the JROTC program. And to me, irrespective of where you are with JROTC, if you're for or against it, for the life of me, I don't understand why 2 years later, after the program was voted off, why we still haven't developed a replacement program. We should be talking about creating vocational opportunities for every young person. That's what it takes. And in terms of job creation, I believe that small businesses are the engine that drive the local economy. They're the ones that create the jobs. And I think that the city needs to make sure that we support small businesses. I have heard repeatedly from so many merchants, whether it's Silver Avenue, whether it's 24th Street, the Mission, Portland, that they pay fees and the city doesn't give anything in return. They really feel that the city, if anything, it gets in the way. The federal government is talking about spending close to $1 trillion to help Wall Street and big corporations to bail them out in these tough economic times. What are we doing for small businesses? And are we doing anything to make sure that small businesses, many of whom, by the way, want to hire young people in the neighborhood, are we, as a city, helping them make that happen? I've talked to so many merchants on 24th Street that would like to create jobs and opportunities for young people in the Mission, in Portola and Portola. Why aren't we helping them as a city to make that happen? We need to do that.
Thank you.